There are 3 people in my family who matter to this story. My father, Richard DeWitt, 68 years old, retired insurance executive who measures success in country club memberships and the weight of a watch on his wrist. My brother, Gregory, 41, hedge fund manager who made his first million by 30 and his first enemy by 31, me, though he's never quite figured that out. And my sister, Nicole, 37, corporate attorney, married to a man whose last name opens doors at restaurants. I could requisition if I wanted to, but never do. Together, they form a perfect triangle of assumptions about my life, each point reinforcing the others, creating a geometry of condescension so complete it's almost architectural. I'm Shayna DeWitt, Colonel, United States Army, commander of Fort Bragg, one of the largest military installations in the world. They think I work in something with paperwork. The gift card cost me nothing. That's the first thing you need to understand. The Officers Club at Fort Bragg doesn't take reservations through normal channels for the private dining rooms, and they certainly don't sell gift cards at a register. What I held in my hand, cream cardstock in a leather folder embossed with the installation seal, represented something far more valuable than money. It represented access to a world my family couldn't buy their way into, no matter how many hedge funds Gregory managed or how many billable hours Nicole racked up. I'd had my aide prepare it 3 weeks ago. Lifetime access to Fort Bragg Officers Club, including all private dining facilities and special events, transferable to immediate family members at the Colonel's discretion. Authorized by Colonel Shayna DeWitt, Installation Commander. My signature at the bottom, countersigned by the club's director. My father would open it at his Father's Day brunch, surrounded by family and the kind of people who measured their worth in luxury brands and vacation homes. He would glance at it, dismiss it as something practical and therefore inferior, and then someone, it didn't matter who, would recognize what it actually meant. The trap was set. I just had to wait for Father's Day. I'd learned to be invisible in my own family by the time I was 12. It wasn't cruelty. Exactly. Just a kind of benign neglect that comes when you're the middle child who doesn't quite fit the pattern. Gregory was the golden boy, brilliant with numbers, destined for Wall Street from the moment he discovered compound interest. Nicole was the baby, charming and persuasive, born to argue. And I was steady, reliable, good at following instructions. Shayna will be fine, my mother used to say when people asked about my future. She's very organized. She died when I was 19, a quick, brutal cancer that took her in 6 months. My father remarried within 2 years, a woman named Patricia who was pleasant and utterly uninterested in stepchildren who were already adults. The family gatherings continued, minus one person who might have seen me clearly. I joined ROTC my sophomore year of college. My father signed the paperwork with the distracted signature, already late for a golf game. "Military service looks good on a resume," he said. "Do your 4 years, then come work in the real world." I did my 4 years, then 8 more, then 12. Somewhere around year 15, when I made lieutenant colonel, I stopped trying to explain. My father would nod and say, "That's nice, dear," and immediately ask Gregory about his latest acquisition or Nicole about her partnership track. Now, at 43, I commanded 52,000 soldiers and civilians on an installation that covered 160,000 acres. I oversaw a budget that would make Gregory's hedge fund look like a lemonade stand. I briefed generals and members of Congress. The Secretary of the Army knew my name. My father thought I did paperwork. The pattern had established itself over decades, calcifying into something harder than fact. Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, Father's Day, the script never varied. Gregory would arrive in whatever luxury car he was currently driving, wearing clothes that cost more than a junior enlisted soldier's monthly salary. Nicole would sweep in with her husband Preston and their 2 impeccably dressed children, trailing stories about vacation homes and private schools. And I would drive up in my practical Ford Explorer, wearing off-the-rack business casual, and field the same questions I'd been answering for 20 years. Still in the army, Shayna? Some aunt or cousin, voice bright with the kind of pity reserved for people who haven't quite figured out their lives. Yes, still serving. How nice. Where are you stationed now? North Carolina. Oh, doing what exactly? Administrative work, logistics, that sort of thing. They'd nod, satisfied with the answer that confirmed their assumptions. Military service was honorable, sure, but it wasn't prestigious. Not like Gregory's hedge fund or Nicole's law firm. I was still serving at 43, which meant I probably couldn't make it in the private sector. The military was a fallback, a place for people who valued stability over ambition. Let them think it. Correcting them would require explanations I didn't care to give and wouldn't be believed if I did. Last Thanksgiving, Gregory had cornered me in my father's study, scotch in hand, wearing his concerned brother face. Shayna, I've been thinking. I could probably get you an interview at one of the firms we work with. Administrative role, maybe corporate liaison. The pay would be better than military, and you'd finally have a career with upward mobility. I'm happy where I am. Are you, though? I mean, look at you. You're 43 and you're still taking orders from people. Don't you want to be in charge of something? I'd smiled, taken a sip of my own drink, and said nothing. Because what could I say? That I commanded more people in a day than he'd manage in his entire life? That my administrative work included coordinating the training of multiple army divisions? That when I gave orders, thousands of soldiers moved? He wouldn't believe it. The cognitive dissonance would be too great. So I smiled and changed the subject, and he went back to the party convinced he'd offered valuable career advice to his struggling sister. Father's Day fell on a Sunday this year, which meant brunch at the Waterford, the kind of restaurant where the prices aren't printed on the menu and the wine list requires a sommelier's interpretation. My father's choice. Naturally, he'd made reservations months in advance, specified the private dining room overlooking the golf course, ensured that everyone who mattered would see him celebrating with his successful family. I arrived exactly on time. Military punctuality is a habit that never breaks, and found the private room already filling with family members. Gregory held court near the window, gesturing expansively while describing his latest investment strategy. Nicole and Preston were showing off photos of their children's spring vacation to Martha's Vineyard. My father sat at the head of the table, holding court, a king surveying his kingdom. Shayna! He spotted me, waved me over. We were beginning to think you'd gotten lost. Sorry, Dad. Traffic on 95. Of course. Come, sit. Gregory was just telling us about this amazing opportunity in emerging markets. I took my assigned seat, middle of the table, neither close enough to be important nor far enough to be excluded, the position I'd occupied for 30 years. Brunch proceeded through its predictable courses: mimosas and Bloody Marys, artfully arranged fruit plates, Eggs Benedict that probably cost more than I spent on groceries in a week. The conversation flowed around me like water around a stone. Market trends, legal cases, vacation plans, the shocking cost of private school tuition. I ate, smiled, responded when addressed. Inside, I was counting down to the moment when the gifts would be presented. It came after dessert, as the servers cleared plates and refilled coffee cups. My father leaned back in his chair, expansive with good food and better wine, ready to receive the tributes his children had prepared. Now then, he announced, I believe there are some presents to open. Gregory went first, naturally. He produced a leather folder embossed with a golf club logo, presented it with a flourish. Dad, I know you've been talking about wanting to play more golf. This is a full membership to Pinehurst Resort. Unlimited tee times, access to all 8 courses, clubhouse privileges, the works. My father's face lit up like Christmas morning. Gregory, this is too much. This must have cost. Don't worry about the cost. You raised me to appreciate quality. He shot me a glance that was probably meant to be meaningful. Some things are worth the investment. My father examined the membership packet, reading aloud about the amenities, the prestige, the exclusivity. Around the table, relatives made impressed noises, properly appreciative of the gift's magnificence. Nicole went next, producing a slim box with the unmistakable blue of Tiffany & Company. Dad, I know you like nice watches. This is from Preston and me. He opened it to reveal a watch that probably cost more than a new car. Rose gold, leather band, the kind of timepiece that screams wealth without saying a word. "Nicole, this is exquisite. Really, you two shouldn't have." "You deserve it," Preston said smoothly. "Man like you, all you've accomplished, you should have something that reflects that success." More appreciative murmurs. My father slipped the watch onto his wrist, admired the way it caught the light, showed it around the table like a trophy. I reached into my bag, pulled out the leather folder containing my gift card. The embossed seal of Fort Bragg stood out against the cream leather, military precise and understated. "Happy Father's Day, Dad." He took the folder, set down the Tiffany box, opened it with the kind of polite interest you show when you're expecting disappointment. I watched his eyes scan the card, watched his expression shift from anticipation to confusion to something that looked uncomfortably like condescension. "A restaurant gift card." He glanced up at me, smile fixed. "How practical." He set it aside without another word, his attention already returning to the watch Nicole had given him, the golf membership from Gregory, the gifts that matched his understanding of what success looked like. Nicole caught my eye across the table, her expression sympathetic in a way that was worse than mockery. "Poor Shayna," her face said. "She tries so hard." The conversation moved on. Plans for golf outings at Pinehurst, discussions about what occasions warranted wearing the new watch. My gift set abandoned at the corner of the table, leather folder closed, dismissed as thoroughly as if I'd handed him a Walmart gift card. I sat very still, hands folded in my lap, and waited. It took 7 minutes. A waiter approached the table, his posture unnaturally rigid, his face pale. He was young, maybe 25, wearing the black vest and bow tie of the Waterford service staff. But something about his bearing, the way he carried himself, the military precision of his approach, marked him as more than just a waiter. "Excuse me, sir." He addressed my father, voice tight with something that might have been nerves or might have been suppressed anger. "I apologize for interrupting." My father looked up, mildly annoyed at the disruption. "Yes? What is it?" The waiter picked up the leather folder, held it with both hands like it might explode. "This gift card, sir, the one your daughter gave you." "What about it?" "Sir, this is..." He stopped, took a breath, started again with the kind of forced calm that comes from years of military discipline. "Sir, that's Fort Bragg's Officers Club, only senior command staff and their guests. Your daughter's signature grants you lifetime access." The silence that followed was absolute. My father stared at the waiter. "What?" "The Officers Club at Fort Bragg, sir. It's not a restaurant. It's a military facility. This card." He opened it, showed my father the embossed seal, the official language, my signature at the bottom. "This grants you permanent access to one of the most exclusive military facilities on the East Coast. The private dining rooms, the special events, everything. Only installation commanders can authorize this kind of access." Gregory's Scotch glass stopped halfway to his mouth. "Installation commander?" My father's voice cracked slightly. "What's an installation commander?" The waiter, and I could see it now, the haircut, the posture, the way he held himself, fixed my father with a look that was just shy of insubordinate. "The base commander, sir. The person who runs the entire installation. Fort Bragg is one of the largest military bases in the world. The commander oversees 50,000 personnel and 160,000 acres. That's..." Nicole started, then stopped, her legal brain doing the math. "Your daughter, sir." The waiter's voice carried across the suddenly silent room. "Colonel DeWitt. She's the installation commander at Fort Bragg. Has been for 18 months. My father's hand had gone to his throat, fingers touching the expensive watch like it might offer some explanation for what he was hearing. Gregory found his voice first. "That's not possible. Shayna does administrative work. She..." "Colonel DeWitt commands Fort Bragg." The waiter's tone had shifted, no longer nervous, now carrying the iron certainty of someone stating simple facts. "She's one of the highest-ranking officers in the Army. This gift card you thought was practical? It represents access to a facility that most generals can't get into without authorization. She gave your father something that money literally cannot buy. He set the leather folder down in front of my father with a gentleness that somehow made the gesture more damning. I apologize for the interruption, sir. I just thought you should know what you were holding. He stepped back, executed a perfect about-face, and walked away with the bearing of a soldier who'd just dropped a grenade and wanted to be clear of the blast radius. The silence held for 3 heartbeats. Then everyone turned to look at me. I met my father's eyes across the table and saw something I'd never seen before. Complete, unvarnished shock. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. You command Fort Bragg? Yes. The whole base? The whole installation, yes. Nicole's phone was already out, fingers moving frantically across the screen. Oh my God. Dad, she's not kidding. There's articles. Photos. Colonel Shayna DeWitt assumes command of Fort Bragg. This is from 18 months ago. She turned the phone to show the table. There I was in my dress blues, standing at attention while a 3-star general passed me the installation colors, the ceremonial transfer of command. Preston was staring at the photo like it was written in a foreign language. That's a real thing. You really command an entire army base. I really do. Gregory had gone very pale. When you said you did administrative work? I do administrative work. I administer an installation of 52,000 soldiers and civilians. I manage a budget of several $billion. I coordinate training operations for multiple Army divisions. I brief members of Congress and the Secretary of the Army. That's all administrative work, technically. Why didn't you tell us? My father's voice had dropped to barely a whisper. I looked at him, at the watch on his wrist, at the golf membership packet on the table, at 20 years of assumptions and dismissals and casual condescension. I tried, I said quietly, when I made major, when I made lieutenant colonel, when I took command of my 1st battalion. Every time, you'd nod and change the subject to Gregory's latest deal, or Nicole's partnership track. So I stopped trying. I let you think what you wanted to think, because it was easier than fighting for recognition I didn't actually need. Nicole was scrolling through articles, her face growing paler with each headline. Fort Bragg commander leads response to hurricane relief efforts. Colonel DeWitt testifies before Senate Armed Services Committee. Jesus Christ, Shayna, you testified before the Senate? Last year, on readiness issues. The Senate? Gregory repeated. His voice sounded hollow. You testified before the United States Senate. It's part of the job. My father was staring at the gift card, like it had transformed into something radioactive, lifetime access, to the officers' club. For you and your immediate family, I thought you might enjoy it. The club has excellent facilities and the private dining rooms overlook the parade grounds. On ceremony days, you can watch from climate-controlled comfort while I review the troops. The words landed like artillery rounds. Preston cleared his throat. Reviewing troops, that's what generals do. Colonels do it too. I have 52,000 people under my command. Someone has to review them. Around the table, relatives who'd spent the morning congratulating Gregory on his golf membership and Nicole on her expensive watch were very carefully not making eye contact with anyone. The waiter returned. I noticed the nameplate now, Sergeant Martinez, with fresh coffee, his face professionally neutral but his eyes finding mine for just a second, a flash of acknowledgement between service members. Will there be anything else? He asked. No, thank you, Sergeant. I used his rank deliberately, watched my family's reaction to the word. We're fine. Very good, ma'am. He executed another perfect about face and withdrew. My father was still staring at the gift card. His new watch suddenly looked very small on his wrist. The golf membership packet sat abandoned on the table, impressive and somehow diminished by proximity to the cream leather folder with its embossed seal. Why that waiter? Nicole asked suddenly. How did he know what it was? Sergeant Martinez served under me at my previous posting. I didn't know he was working here, but I'm not surprised he recognized the officers' club seal. Any service member would. You planned this. Gregory's voice carried an edge of something that might have been anger or might have been hurt. You knew exactly what would happen. You gave Dad that gift card knowing he'd dismiss it, knowing someone would recognize it. I met his eyes across the table. I gave Dad a gift that represents something I'm proud of, something that shows what I've accomplished. If he dismissed it, that's on him, not on me. The truth of it hung in the air like smoke. My father set down his coffee cup with a hand that trembled slightly. 18 months. You've commanded Fort Bragg for 18 months, and you never told us. Would you have listened if I'd tried? The question had no good answer, and we all knew it. Nicole was still scrolling through her phone, reading aloud in a voice that got progressively smaller. Colonel DeWitt coordinated joint training exercises with NATO allies. Fort Bragg commander implements new readiness protocols. Oh God, Shayna, you've been doing this the whole time. The whole time we thought you were just a lifer who couldn't hack it in the real world? I offered. Just someone who needed the structure of the military because she couldn't succeed anywhere else? Just steady, reliable Shayna, good at following orders but not important enough to ask about? Nicole's phone slipped from her fingers, clattered on the table. My father had his head in his hands now, the new watch visible on his wrist, expensive and suddenly meaningless. I'm sorry, he whispered. God, Shayna, I'm so sorry. I looked at him, at the man who'd raised me, who'd loved me in his way, who'd never quite seen me, and felt something in my chest loosen. I know, I said. I know you are. Gregory was doing mental calculations. I could see it in his face, putting together pieces he'd ignored for years. Your salary, as a colonel commanding Fort Bragg, your salary is higher than yours, I said flatly. Base pay plus housing allowance, plus command stipend, plus various other benefits. I'm doing just fine financially, Gregory. I've been doing fine for years. He slumped back in his chair like he'd been punched. The brunch was over, effectively. Oh, people made attempts at conversation, forced pleasantries about how impressive it all was, how they'd always known I was capable of great things, how proud everyone was. But the foundation had cracked, and no amount of social plastering could repair it. I stayed for another 20 minutes out of courtesy, answered the sudden flood of questions about my career, showed them photos on my phone of change of command ceremonies and dignitary visits, and the daily reality of running one of the largest military installations in the world. Then I made my excuses, kissed my father's cheek, and left. In the parking lot, Sergeant Martinez was waiting by his beat-up Honda, still in his waiter's uniform, smoking a cigarette he'd probably been craving since his shift started. Ma'am, he straightened as I approached, I hope I didn't overstep. You did exactly what I hoped someone would do, Sergeant. Thank you. He grinned, the kind of knowing smile one service member gives another when they've pulled off a successful operation. Couldn't let them disrespect you like that, Colonel, not in front of me. How long have you been working here? 6 months. Pays better than base, and I'm going to school at night. UNC Chapel Hill business degree. Good man. You need a reference letter for anything, you let me know. Thank you, ma'am. That means a lot. I drove back to Fort Bragg with the windows down, warm June air washing through the Explorer, feeling lighter than I had in years. My phone buzzed with texts. Nicole, Gregory, even my father, each trying to find words for what had happened. I'd answer them eventually, start the slow work of rebuilding relationships on foundations of truth rather than assumptions. But not today. Today, I had a readiness brief at 3 p.m., a call with ForceCom at 4:30, and a dinner at the Officers Club with visiting dignitaries from Germany at 7 o'clock. The same club my father now had lifetime access to, if he ever found the courage to use it. At the installation gate, the guards snapped salutes as I passed through. The afternoon sun caught the rank insignia on my uniform, the silver eagles that marked me as a full colonel, the commander's pennant flying from my vehicle. I returned the salutes and drove on, toward the headquarters building where my name was etched on a plaque outside the door, toward the work that had always mattered more than my family's recognition of it. But it felt good, I had to admit, to finally be seen, even if it had taken a gift card and a former soldier-turned-waiter to force them to open their eyes. Sometimes the best gift you can give someone isn't what they think they want, it's the truth they've been too comfortable to see. My father had wanted a golf membership. and a fancy watch. What I'd given him was far more valuable, a mirror, reflecting back 20 years of assumptions, and the daughter he'd never bothered to truly know. Whether he'd use it was up to him. I had a